you've been hearing about kayaking for the last 3 weeks. I love kayaking. You probably already guessed that. I started about 18 years ago. I actually started canoeing over 40 years ago. And Mary and I were canoeing the North Fork of the the North Fork of the Flathead in Montana. Beautiful whitewater river, remote, big rolling wave trains. We had to stop and empty our canoe about 8 times. When we came to a Class 3 rapids, Mary was in the bow. We plunged into the head wave in a wave train. She went up the wave, got lifted out of the water in the canoe, came down with a splash, crashed through a few more waves. I waved my paddle in the air. Woohoo! Mary turned around and said, "Leave me out of this and get yourself a kayak." Well, that was the start of my kayaking. I went back to Minnesota. Not too long after that, I bought my first whitewater kayak. Since then, I've bought about a total of 12 kayaks, and I still have 6 of them. Now, I've kind of transitioned more to sea kayaks, and this is a wonderful area for sea kayaking. Matter of fact, I brought along 2 of my favorite paddles. This is more of a conventional European-style paddle with a carbon fiber shaft and willow blades. And this is actually a cedar Greenland-style paddle that I carved myself out of a cedar 2x4. Now, the Greenland paddle, it's got a narrower grip and more of kind of a relaxed stroke. And I haven't quite reached the laid-back point in my life where I really feel attached to the Greenland. I think I prefer the Euro. But they are supposed to be easier on you and have some definite advantages. Kind of a cool paddle. Now, people really like kayaking because it's so easy. You've got a blade on each side. If you want to turn right, just paddle a little more on this side and you turn. But there's actually a lot more you can do with a paddle, and I'm going to cover 10 or 11 paddle strokes that might come in handy. The first thing I want to mention is on your basic forward stroke. You really want your energy, your power to come from your torso, using torso rotation, not just your arms. You have a lot more strength in your torso, and you can last a lot longer that way. More powerful stroke. So the first stroke is just your basic forward stroke. Reach forward. When you get to this point in your stroke, well, when you get beyond that, you're just lifting water. So you really don't need to go much beyond that. Just either stop right there or don't put a lot of power into it beyond that point. Second stroke, powerful turning stroke, is your sweep stroke, where you might reach out a little farther and you really draw in at this point. And then you do want to use power in the end of your stroke because that's really what's going to turn the kayak. Well, I've got the blade back here. I'll point out the rudder stroke. If say you're surfing a wave, you use your rudder to steer. There's also, if you want to turn in a hurry, you can do something fancy, like do a sweep stroke on this side and then a front rudder on this side, and it'll pull the kayak around. There are also backstrokes. Now, for kayaking, your basic backstroke is very handy for paddling against the current, keep you in place, and give you an opportunity to scout rapids. I actually like to do this in a sea kayak too. For one thing, it works a whole different set of muscles, and it helps you really develop coordination if you can control your kayak backwards. Now, you can also do things like a back sweep stroke, where you're turning the kayak like that. There are also what are called brace strokes that help keep you upright. And being upright is a really handy thing. Especially if it's cold out. You like to stay in the kayak instead of in the water. Amongst your brace strokes, there's the low brace. say you're starting to tip over, you slap the water with your paddle, bring your hips, well, I'm having a hard time demonstrating this without a kayak, but anyway, you snap with your hips, get the kayak under you, bring your paddle back up. If you're in a bunch of waves, and there's a wave coming, well, you can do what's called side surfing a wave. You get turned sideways, there's a wave coming at you. This is the high braced stroke. And what you want to do is lean into the wave and use a high brace stroke. And your kayak can actually just slide sideways and get carried right into shore. All right, what am I missing? I think I covered the basic strokes. And what I want to say is that you don't really need to remember the names of all of these, or even exactly what I did. If you get out with a kayak, know that there's a lot more you can do. And paddle with things. Oh, I know which one I forgot. I knew I forgot something. I didn't cover going sideways. There's the draw stroke, and all this lifting your paddle out of the water is a lot of work. So you can do what's called a sculling draw stroke, and that'll actually pull your kayak sideways. You can also do a sculling brace stroke if you're really leaning over on your blade and you scull back and forth to stay upright. All right, so in conclusion, you can have a lot of fun with these strokes, and you might make a really dramatic entrance to the dock, or you might do like I did. I just finished my first Class 4 rapids. Like Patrick last week, I was really proud of myself, thought it was really bad. Made it upright, paddled up to the dock, did something like a sweep stroke and a draw, got to the dock, worked on getting out of my kayak, and totally and went into the river. It was actually quite embarrassing. So maybe you could do it with more grace than that. Mr. Toastmaster?